call this meeting to order.
Okay.
So we'll call the meeting to order at 5:32. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Just one. I want to add under Selectboard items, G, Category A, Better Roads Contract. Please.
Okay. Okay, and then next is the approval of the minutes from May 9th, 2018.
Yep, I'll move to approve the minutes of May 19th.
I second
Or
that.
9th, I mean.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 9th as presented. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment on items not on the agenda. Looks to me like you're probably all here for the same reason, but, so no public comment. Okay. Select board items for discussion and action. First on our list is
Putney Co-op.
Putney Co-op, Jeff Shumlin and Pip Bannister. Jeff, you're looking different.
Well, you know, change it up now and then, Josh.
And this is a Culvert and Swale discussion. So, you're all Putney Co-op board, is that right?
That's
what I
right.
thought. Yes, and Pip obviously is zoning as well.
He's representing
Whatever that other
the
group
Putney
is.
Co-op though.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my
His new
hat
hat.
today.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So what are we discussing? Are you guys presenting?
May we come up a little bit closer? It feels like it's,
Absolutely,
okay.
please.
As long as I can see your face for part of it, that would be great.
Okay. There may be a couple parts to this discussion. We're all co-op board members.
Right.
Michael is the current president.
Yeah,
Carol's treasurer.
Okay.
I'm secretary.
okay.
This was initiated because the co-op is doing an addition.
Right.
And as part of that, had to go through Act 250, get an amendment to our Act 250 permit. We have an Act 250 permit because we inherited it when we bought the lot. The lot required an Act 250 permit.
Right.
So all future activity for us comes under the purview of Act 250.
And this is
Among act-
not showing the current co-op, which is roughly.
Right. This is the original subdivision plan
Yeah.
showing the drainage scheme.
Yeah,
And I'm, bringing that here to share it because I sort of want to try to make an argument. My role here is to talk about the responsibilities for drainage, site drainage. And I think Michael will talk to you more about just the condition of the road in front of the co-op.
Mhm.
As part of the Act 250 process, we amended our our stormwater discharge permit, which typically wouldn't be an issue for most all residential and most small commercial stuff, except we're going through Act 250. So under Act 250, we need to address the fact that there are impervious surfaces associated with the development of the lot and describe how the stormwater is being dealt with when it can't penetrate the ground because of impervious surfaces.
Mhm.
Our primary impervious surfaces are roof, but the SurePack driveway is considered an impervious surface by stormwater discharge folks.
yeah.
So that review triggered an awareness of the stormwater discharge people that the overall stormwater discharge permit hadn't been re-upped, that you need to verify that it's in good condition and do any maintenance that's appropriate for the system. And that sort of fell to Jeff, who is the point person for the owners, the Gateway Associates. When that happened, Jeff kind of looked at the co-op and was talking about the responsibility of the maintenance of the stormwater discharge system, which is grassy swales and culverts leading to points of discharge. The one that I'm familiar with is the grassy swale that leads to a catch basin that goes underneath Route 5. And so that's the one that is, you know, that's the one that serves our property primarily. The permit is a kind of separate issue, but it sort of reflects some of the confusion about the responsibility, in that the permit is Gateway Associates permit. It's an umbrella permit that absorbed the co-op. And the co-op now, Jeff is trying to have individuals who had purchased lots get their own stormwater discharge permit. I'm sorry, I keep saying water, wastewater. So we may be in the process of doing that, but what it brought up for me was the fact that this system serves primarily as the drainage system for water sheeting off the road. The major impervious surface within the whole subdivision is the road. And if you look at the hydrodynamics of the site during a rainstorm, there's not a lot happening. In the winter, of course, when the ground's frozen, then everything's, different. No water's just, all water is going to go everywhere until it finds the lowest point. But for the rest of the year, the site is primarily sand. It's very well drained, and the culvert and swale system is in the right-of-way of the road. It's not on the land owned by the co-op or any of the other lots. And it serves, the road has been taken over by the town, and the swale and culvert system serves the drainage for the road and other lots. In this case, the co-op's here, the low spot is right here. I thought we had a bigger one in the files here, and I just looked this afternoon and we didn't. It's a little hard to read this, but the topography is going down here. The road drops down, and the low spot is right here, and there's a small 4-inch plastic pipe that goes underneath the asphalt curb into the ditch, and that deals with the ponding that occurs there. Yeah, and I think that ponding, is probably what's aggravating. Yeah, but it's the design. This is intentionally designed as the low spot in the system to be then directed to the culvert, to the swale, and then the swale will drain down to here. So we've had to also deal with replacement of the culvert underneath the sidewalk that goes to the front entrance, small little culvert underneath another section of sidewalk, and then the main culvert leading into the driveway now, all of which are not on our land. Robin was going to come and sort of share. Robin has spent many thousands, right?
Many thousands of dollars over time repairing the culverts themselves. I've actually had to have the swale dug out because it was full of silt, and so I've had Derek come and take care of that. And then we replaced those 2 small culverts, and now the culvert running underneath the driveway, I feel like, is somewhat responsible for the breakdown there of the
driveway into your parking lot.
Into our parking lot. So that's, that runs where the sidewalk, it goes, it follows the path of the sidewalk in front of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're bringing to you is this issue that it's, there's been some confusion, I think, among the original development as to what the responsibilities would be once the town took over the road. And so that's a little gray area. And then for us as, an owner of a parcel in the development, the failure of the swale, I think, is primarily siltation and, sand and, it's road, it's debris from the road that's coming in there. We're not losing soil off our site into the swale, it's all grassed. And the SurePack tends to stay, in there. So among the ways we could begin to approach this is what do other communities do when they take over a road? Is all the drainage infrastructure their responsibility? Do they cost share with, adjacent landowners? I think there's a residential model that Karen was going to look for in other communities where the cost of culverts is a cost for the owner of the parcel. The town takes responsibility for putting it in to sort of meet their requirements that it work adequately to serve as the drainage for their town highway. So, that's sort of where we are here, is that Robin just takes it on and has been doing it continuously. But because of this recent round of interest in the stormwater discharge permitting, it's sort of been, it's come to our attention that there's a history of doing this work that isn't in it isn't on our land. It's on the town right away.
Was this, this was included in the culvert survey that was done?
I would imagine so, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about that.
It's gonna get redone,
Mhm.
The
They're gonna-
culvert survey is going to get updated.
and it's gonna happen this summer.
Okay, so
They're
so
gonna
we should just make
inventory
sure of this.
everything.
So we should
Yes.
make sure this gets included.
Now, I looked for an agreement, Pat, and I didn't see anything, I didn't find anything on Carroll Brown Way when the town took it over. I don't know.
When was that?
Putney Gateways, and in disclosure, I am a 5% owner of Putney Gateways. 91.
Do
Yeah.
you recall,
This is
Josh?
dated. I don't.
You don't?
They may have documentation, we may have documentation of what that agreement was, although I think the co-op was really split off before it even,
Well, we, simultaneous with the creation of
Right.
this, we used the same engineer it was like they were sort of two Act 250
Doing the
permits.
whole thing,
The
yeah.
overall subdivision, and we
And
were
then you
very
guys,
close behind
yeah.
with our own Act 250 permit, and we used we demonstrated that our stormwater discharge was conforming to this plan and had the engineer of this system say, yes, this is how we are intending to deal with stormwater discharge for all of these lots. And there are other systems, the riprap and, more active drainage for behind the housing, but ours just goes into a grassy swale.
so in order to comply with your current Act 250 permitting process, do you need to change anything or
No, we
not?
luckily
You just-
came under an exemption. We hadn't triggered, we were under 5,000 square feet. You're allowed to modify up to 5,000 square
Yeah.
feet. But what's a little awkward and why Jeff, these issues are sort of independent of your concerns about municipal maintenance
Right.
of the system, but it is the system referenced in our stormwater discharge permit. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought about where it was headed, because
I would have to guess, and this is just a guess, that Putney Gateways, because this parcel has been transferred to you guys, has no responsibility at all. That's just a guess. I don't know. As long as it,
we come under one stormwater discharge permit at the moment. That's what's sort of awkward about it.
Yeah.
And the stormwater discharge permit,
includes
it
all of these
really
parcels
addresses,
as well as.
really addresses,
the whole
the
area.
street, the requirements
Yeah.
for adequate drainage for paved streets. And we get to reference it, that any water that comes off our roof that isn't absorbed in the ground will theoretically end up in the lowest spot on the site, which is a grassy swale. And the grassy swale is a treatment for, right, and then it'll, be somewhat clarified by the time it reaches the storm drain that goes across Route 5.
So, are you asking anything of us?
Suggesting that the town has some responsibility, but also opening the door for acknowledging that there could be some sharing of responsibility. So we're not saying, oh my God, the municipality has really let us down. We've spent all this money maintaining swales that you guys should have done. But just to acknowledge the reality is that maintenance of the swale is required by our stormwater discharge permit, but it's not on our land, and it's primarily being affected by the road, which is not our deal.
Well, it is on your land, but it's in the town right of way. So
No, our
I'm
property
guessing
line, our property line.
is
it's
outside of
outside
that?
it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's all outside
so
of
when
our
it-
property line.
okay, so it's, okay.
The
So
swale
then
and the
it's-
sidewalk are outside our property line.
Yep.
If that dark line is the property line.
Yeah, I mean, I can show you a bigger one, but I.
Yeah, no, I'm not second guessing, I just was under the impression, it was my
Yeah.
assumption that your land would include those and the right of way would.
No, it was,
But it-
the way the subdivision was done is that all of that
Everything
swale.
within the dark lines was
Yeah.
given to the town.
Yeah, and all of the drainage system is
On
within
town
the,
property.
yeah, on the town right-of-way side of stuff. And then Route 5 is a pretty big chunk. It's actually, this may not be that accurate, it swings out here pretty widely, and Route 5 has got quite a wide right-of-way over
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
Now, does that culvert catch anything off of Route 5?
Which culvert?
The swale and the culvert there.
There's, yeah, that's,
State be involved in that?
yeah, well,
I mean,
Except there's sidewalk all there, so I'd be, unless there's a drop.
it's,
Basement of some
it's
sort.
it's picking stuff up off, that comes down here. It begins to drain as a low spot for the contours of the parking lot and stuff. I think if you go there, you sort of get a sense that it's draining down to that
The
catch
parking
basin.
lot of Yellow Barn you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I don't
Yeah.
know where like it's somewhere in here, it may begin to pitch off over here, but most of this stuff is coming, I don't think it's climbing up the curve.
It's not a good shot, but you can see Route 5 there. It
Yeah.
looks like some of the water is shunting. towards
Yeah,
the
I can't
camera.
remember whether is there a drain in here? I don't think there is, on Route 5, like that catches that, because that's curb all the way along there,
The
So-
catch basin on 5 is
a little further
is about
back.
here, sort of
Yeah.
halfway between.
That's separate from the road. He's asking if the road has its own catch basin.
Oh, no.
Right, I
It's
don't
just a
know.
curb. I think you're right, Josh.
I
No,
think it's
this-
just a curb, I don't
This-
think there's
this-
one in there.
This was intended to drain back, so the high point here.
Drains back into this swale and then it comes back this way.
Drains back to the road where it puddles and then goes through the pipe.
Right.
And that's the intentional design. I had contacted this designer asking, a few years ago, asking whether that could be modified in some way because it's so susceptible to freezing. And he said, no, that without a serious rework of
Well-
the design associated with the permit, that was what that was based on his calculations.
I mean, one way they deal with these things, which might be appropriate for here, is to just put a concrete waterway with a metal section over the top of it, and then it would be, 6 inches deep and
Yeah.
4 feet wide.
Yeah.
This is clearly insufficient for just about anything, so.
But it is what, it was intentional. That was an intentional component of the design, for better or for worse. So I guess maybe to end sort of the thinking here from my point of view is that for better or for worse, the town took over the road. It was, it has a designed stormwater discharge system.
Right.
That was also serving to drain the lots unless they had other options, like, in places the lot the geography of the lot may send the water somewhere else. Like in the back here, those lots goes off by gravity. But for us, we're sending our water to the swale. Theoretically, in reality, most of the year, it's not. Yeah, it's road debris. So because of the design, I think that's aggravates this situation, and Michael can talk to you about the fact that there are potholes, and then we'll have a classic pothole discussion.
Well, I don't know what, I don't know, we're looking at paving, we're, already done for this year's paving cycle, so, we'll be looking again. But, I think it would be worth putting this all really in Brian's hands and saying,
we'll have to speak
what
to Brian.
What do you think?
Because, I have a lot of questions for him.
I mean, I think a wider waterway, regardless of what the engineer says, I think a wider system here would, that's, a 4-inch pipe is.
Yeah, it's
not
sort of
sufficient.
yours now.
What's that?
It's yours, in some regard. well, no, as a mini, and the co-op, if we didn't have a stormwater discharge permit, we would never be talking about this.
Right.
But because of Act 250 and because there was a process that, highlighted the design of that and now scrutinized it recently and requested that Jeff do his maintenance, he did. It's a little confusing, so it's.
Well, we should probably work on clarifying who's responsible for what. I think it makes the most sense to have
Right,
Brian
yes.
sort of get an overview of this. The other thing that we encounter semi-regularly in residential situations is that how you would like us to maintain this versus how we would be likely to maintain it may not be the same thing. For us, as long as it does what it has to do, that's probably sufficient. But that may not be what you want it to do. So, that's where the cost sharing part comes in. Because we are not, water goes where water goes. So we are not responsible for controlling water on your property, but presumably because of the agreement, we're responsible for a certain level of maintenance. So sort of what that agreement is, I don't know, I guess we just need to revisit that.
An awareness here too. The co-op's pretty tolerant, they let a lot of things go by. But the ice and the water buildup in the wintertime is really hazardous.
Yeah, no,
and that's why we spend a lot of money trying to deal with it.
yeah.
And I also, since I'm talking here, I just wanted to, as a footnote, point out that I think there's a lot of traffic on that road.
There
Yes.
is.
And I think,
Yes.
as witnessed by a couple little photographs there, it's in really poor condition.
Yeah.
It's had potholes after potholes after potholes. I know you got lots of potholes, but
Yeah.
it's just, there's a lot of traffic on that road. So,
Yes.
and so I think that's a piece of awareness that just needs to be brought before everyone.
Yeah, I would say we should, again, have Brian look at it, but when we're looking at repaving it, I would say we should, repairing it and or repaving it, we should look at dealing with that culvert situation so that it is more effective. Are we gonna solve all the problems? Probably not, but can we help? Maybe, and it may be that we need a drop basin on the south side of that road with a real culvert going
Right.
underneath so that we can take, because, these potholes are mostly towards the south side of the road. So maybe we have more buildup. I've always noticed it, but I've never really
Noticed.
I've never really analyzed it. So, but, that's where Brian would
Right,
come in and
right.
say, what, if we had a drop basin here and a, 12-inch culvert under,
Yeah.
this would all go away. I don't know. And then somebody could run their hose through it so that, for the community garden. So, kill two birds with
Technically,
one
that's
stone.
not the co-op, so.
Right.
But we're friendly. It's a small town.
And I'm sure Brian, he's been filling those holes.
Right.
Right.
He'd
Yeah.
like to see them, repaired and just.
Be better to do something that
Yes.
was more
Yes.
long-term, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I think to the south side of the road, at the corner of Carroll Brown Way and Route 5, there's a sort of a drop basin, also a low spot, isn't there? I'm thinking maybe they could just carve a swale
It goes
on the
up.
south side.
It's, when you turn off of Route 5, Carroll Brown and Route 5 is at a higher elevation than,
Than the north side.
no, the cross section, that I don't know,
Yeah, I don't know.
Josh. So
We'll get Brian out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need
Yeah.
conversation from Brian.
and then see. And I would just say, you know, if you get to the point where you are needing to do something else and you don't feel like the town is addressing it, let us know.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
But we'll ask Brian to.
Well, the potholes are dreadful.
They
Yeah.
are.
As a class, you know, so
Yeah,
that's,
we're
there
getting
you've heard
complaints.
the classic. The potholes unbelievable.
That's Western Avenue.
Oh, well, that's not
You're
quite
not
that
going quite as
bad.
fast, yeah.
Well, I don't
I'm
know.
gonna
This is-
abandon these guys, I have
Yeah,
another
yeah.
point.
I think that's
But so
probably
from
all.
my point of view, I wanted to share that with you, that I think there's an issue, a little confusion about
Who's
who's responsible, and please continue the conversation so that.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
So, yeah,
So Brian would need to know also the engineering of what the elevation that would be, because he'd have to grind everything out of there if
well,
it's a low spot.
yes, that's true,
gonna add to-
although, you know, what Act 250 would require and what Brian, you know, I mean, Brian's ability to stand there and say, well, the water obviously wants to go there, is different than an engineer's
Right.
willingness to actually say that instead of, you know, I mean, they have to do what they have to do. Brian could say, well, if we had a swale here, that would solve the problem.
Okay.
You know, whether he'll say that or not, I don't know, but I think that's where we start. And then, you know, it obviously has to comply with Act 250 because that's all Act 250 property, but that's basically gonna be a,
Does road maintenance interfere with Act 250?
I don't think so.
Designation?
The only, well, no, but it all has to be, you know, I mean, certainly if it's on, like Basketville being the most recent example,
Yeah.
it all has to comply with state regulation, et cetera. So I'm not sure what the answer to that is. As long as it fits into what has been sort of already put on that property, then it's probably not an issue. You know, the town, I think, also has reasonable leeway in just doing things as they choose, as long as it's not dramatically
So it
affecting.
works.
Exactly,
Right.
so, but we'll get them out there and have a look at it, so. Sound reasonable?
Sounds reasonable
Yeah,
to me.
definitely.
Okay.
So do you want to table that until the next meeting? Or do you
Well, we're
want-
not gonna take any action anyway.
Okay.
I mean, we don't need to take any action, so, you know, we've heard the complaint
Okay,
and we'll look at it, and we'll, you know, if Jeff comes up with anything substantive, we'll look at that too and consider that.
all right, so we'll discuss it with Brian.
Yeah,
We'll look for some culvert
yeah,
driveway policies. Because I
Yeah.
know Westminster has one. I can't get to it, it's not linking on their website. I think Guilford has one too.
generally, it's our policy, I think, you know, it's usually some splitting of the, like
Okay.
you said, you know, the person
Yeah.
buys the culvert and we do the work, or vice,
Right.
you know, that Brian sort of does it on a case by case, is my experience, whether that's based on a policy or not, I'm actually not sure.
I
but,
will double check.
But we, you know, as long as it's been approved by the town as it is, which this obviously has been, then we usually try and work with people to
Okay,
get it to do what it's supposed to. Doesn't always
To
work.
follow up, would we check with Karen or check back with you folks?
Check with Karen,
Okay,
give Brian
right.
a few days anyway,
yeah.
maybe a week,
Yeah, he's
Sure.
down a couple guys, so,
yeah.
Yeah.
so just call me, you know.
But he may also, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, as with most things, he's probably been keeping an eye on it, thinking, you know, all right, what do we need to do to deal with this situation? So it may not, there may
Yeah.
not be a whole lot that goes into it. He may say, oh yeah, I've been thinking for years, we need to do this, and that's just what we need to do. But
Uh-huh.
sort of when they can do that and how that works, I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Well, that would be great to think of alleviating it.
Some of it anyway, yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Just getting things to work,
Yeah.
especially with our,
I know I've hit those potholes a number of times.
Yeah.
At this point now, you can't
can't
Not
dodge the
yet.
ball.
Yeah.
You just, it's impossible.
Yeah.
That's when we draw the line. No, we're creative.
That's
but,
fair.
All right. Thank you. So-
your time.
We'll,
Take care.
Have a good night.
see ya.
Bye-bye.
Okay, zoning regulation amendment, set date for the public hearing.
Yeah, I thought Pip was gonna stay and explain this, this amendment to the zoning regulations, but, so the planning commission has had their public hearing, and they approved this amendment. So now the legislative body needs to, notice a public hearing. And it has to be done like 15 days in advance. It has to go into the Brattleboro Reformer, and it's gonna be posted in our normal places.
So it can't be for our next regular meeting if it's 15 days.
I know, it's only gonna be 14.
So it probably would have to be the meeting after that.
Yes.
But are we restricted by how much time from when they approved it?
They approved it
On
on
May 8th.
May 8th,
Right.
and,
How many days from May 8th do we have to act on this?
that's
I'm guessing
15
it.
days today. I don't really know,
Right, it's 15 days since they did it.
right.
So it's probably 40, I would bet it's 45 days. So if we do it for 2 meetings from now,
So the adoption has to be within 1 year of date of final
Okay.
planning commission hearing. Legislative hearings, deadline for action 15 days prior to final hearing date. So there were no changes from the planning commission's public hearing. So as long as you're okay with this, the way it is, we can warn,
2 meetings from now.
yep.
Sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Let's do that. Hear ye, hear ye.
And Pip had, there's one comment, Ann Carey had a comment, and,
Well, she can present that at the public hearing if she chooses to.
I think she was okay.
At the other, she did
Yes.
that, she already did
Yes.
present it at the
Yep.
other one. Okay.
So that would be June 20th, 2 meetings from now?
Sounds like it might be right.
Is that,
It is.
it's
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, I've had my dates messed up, but, so June 20th,
3rd, 6th,
so,
yeah.
paper.
No, don't do that.
Sorry.
Contagious.
Yeah.
I guess I know I'm gonna be out of town that day, but that's about it.
As long as we have a quorum, we'll be all right.
As far as I know, I'm around.
Yeah.
June 20th we're talking about?
Yeah.
Stay after school time. Classes are out.
Let's plan it for that and if we, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. All
I'd
right.
rather have it further out than, you know,
Well, we can't do it next time because it's not 15 days, so.
I know, by the time it gets in the paper, it's gonna be less.
Right, exactly. So
So-
we can't do that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Collection of delinquent water and sewer charges.
So I emailed Larry and then followed up with him with the delinquent water and sewer. So it has come to our attention that we have at least one, it could be more. I have not had time to research the list.
Yeah.
Of a resident having sewer but not being billed since 2009.
Oh,
So it was an oversight, we don't know how it happened, so Larry's suggestion is Given the history of delinquencies, we recommend that the treasurer issue a warrant to the town manager as collector of delinquent taxes to collect the delinquent charges for water and sewer. So the way we do delinquent taxes, he would like us, he recommends that we do the same for water and sewer.
So can you describe that process? So
So what happens is a warrant is issued for delinquency. And it's recorded with the town clerk
yeah,
with a list of those delinquent
persons,
users.
yeah.
Yep. And then they're given like 30 days to
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
If they don't pay, then it goes to Larry. It's kind of like a tax sale.
Right,
Knowing that we can't shut water off because it's not metered,
right.
but you can with water.
With knowing we can't
can
shut
shut
sewer
sewage.
off.
Right, you
But-
can shut water off
Right,
because it has a valve, a shut
Right,
off valve.
right.
But that's his recommendation to collect.
And, okay,
But-
and the effort will be to collect the entire amount going back to the time of origination?
He didn't state that, but,
That's what it seemed like. Okay.
but he's never gotten a bill, so how do you collect on?
Right, I guess we sort of see how that unfolds as far as the negotiation.
There's no connection fee that was paid either, which is normally $1,500, and a $50 application fee. I did review the file. There are notes in there stating at one time he did want to hook up to municipal water sewer. He retracted that application. His $100 was sent back. He put a private well in. But somehow he ended up hooking up to the sewer without the town realizing.
Any fees, any?
Right.
Would he have done that himself, you mean, or?
He would have had to have a
You
contractor
could,
do
yeah,
that.
you
Okay, can do it, yeah.
Yeah, but Joe from Simon's operation, because he was requested by the state to do an inventory and check. And he had found manholes, so he knew,
That there must be a connection somewhere.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he did talk to the owner too, and he did state he was hooked up to the sewer.
Can that be any contractor that does that? Or do you have to?
it would have to be a licensed plumbing contractor.
Yeah, right,
I would
but-
assume, but
okay.
other than that, I don't, and
To
I'm
hook
guessing
up-
it would have to be engineered also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and there is no state, there's a permit for the well, but nothing, it was specific to water.
Right,
Not
not
sewer.
sewer.
Don't we have to approve?
We typically do approve that, so, well, we don't necessarily approve the plan, we approve a
The
connection.
process, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I asked Joe, I'm like, Joe, how did this just fall
Happen.
through the crack like
Yeah.
that? I said, I don't understand. And he's like, I don't know, and we went over the notes and the files, and he doesn't,
It's not clear,
no.
yeah.
And this is just one of maybe 6. So I have to research the other ones to make sure.
That we're not in the
Yeah.
same situation.
And I did let Joe know, I says, listen, you're gonna get a list of people who are
Possibly,
connecting,
yeah.
so you know.
Because part of what connected the dots is that these are people who are listed for the sewer system but are not billed
Right,
a sewer bill.
they're
So-
in the system, Laura,
Mm-hmm.
utility billing, but there's no rate in there.
There's a zero rate, so,
So it was strange,
Yeah.
and that's not the only one, so I have to have Joe confirm.
other ones.
Yeah.
So, the question is, without sufficient documentation, what can we recover, what can we not recover? I don't, I think basically that probably is incumbent upon Larry to figure out that aspect of it and advise us. You know, I mean, my assumption would be that the initial effort would be to recover the entire amount and then try and work from there, but.
Yeah, Larry further states that we could prepare a letter. And,
For the delinquent.
Right.
debtor, Yeah.
yeah, and notify the ratepayer that the property will be turned over to legal counsel for collection unless the ratepayer enters into a contract for payment of the delinquent charges. But again, they're not really delinquent if he never got a bill.
Well, that's.
Although he's been using-
That's
Yeah.
debatable.
He's
I mean,
been
you know.
using the service,
Right.
he's been hooked up to the service, and,
No, and that's a, you know, I think, again, that's a documentation
Right.
question. And
Yeah.
if we can't produce the documentation, then we probably don't have a whole lot of argument.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if it's just the way it is, then we may not need a whole lot of argument. I mean, sort of the same thing with taxes.
yeah,
If we don't bill somebody for their taxes, they still owe them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of the onus is also on the
Exactly.
landowner, it seems
Exactly.
like.
correct.
So,
Yeah.
So this is one of possibly six.
A few, yeah.
So let me research the other ones, because it may not be just one letter,
Right.
so,
Yeah, we might as well do it as a group if we
Right.
are able to.
right. So I will bring back to you in 2 weeks.
Be good to figure out how to prevent it from happening again, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, that,
It's interesting.
very,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that glitch of sort of having applied for water and sewer and then canceling the water, somehow that just let it,
yeah.
because like you said, it's a $50 fee for each of those, isn't it? So if $100 was returned to
Right.
him, it was as if there was never
Oh, yeah,
gonna be.
right,
So, you know, how will that,
it's an oversight somehow.
yeah, so.
Would, out of curiosity, would the plumber need,
The plumber should verify the permit,
Right.
I would think. I don't know whether they're liable for it or whether they're, you know,
but I mean, is that something that could be amended off? I mean,
they should be required to check and make sure there's a permit. I mean, any
Well-
contractor who does
Yeah.
anything is required to verify, well, I don't know exactly how that works with that kind of thing, but,
And usually for us, if somebody's connecting, there's a inspection before they bury
right,
the
exactly.
pipe.
Which I'd be surprised if that didn't happen.
I know, isn't
Who, does Tom usually do that, or does Simons usually do
it?
that?
Simons,
And they have no verification that there was an inspection done?
yeah,
So we need to find out who the contractor was.
right, and Joe doesn't, he doesn't recall, he doesn't even, I can ask Brian too about that.
Yeah,
He might remember,
well, and the
If that
homeowner,
road was dug up, Brian
should
would've
remember.
known.
right, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, it may not have been dug up because it may well, you know, since it was all laid out, it may have been off the side of the road,
Joe
so.
remembers, cause there was gonna be an expense for them to hook up, cause they had to go down across Carol Brown Way,
In order to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
so.
all right.
But that's what I have for now on that one.
Sounds good. Excuse me, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Um,
Or protective, Karen.
yeah, exactly. Okay, website recommendation and approval.
Right.
So,
So we put together this little summary. My recommendation is to go with govoffice.com because it provides everything we're looking for. There's more than one town that uses GovOffice. They're located in Vermont.
the company's located in Vermont?
Yep. Revise is another good one, but they're like in Michigan and I just don't,
Oh, it's $1,100 for govoffice.com and
Yeah.
$1,800 for Revise.
yeah. So in the future, what we're looking at, just so you know, we're looking for either credit card payments online,
Nice.
and like ACH payments and that kind of thing. For dogs, for taxes, for utility billing.
Great.
So I think it's important.
So you'd be able to do all of that from
Mhm.
home?
I think it's very important, and most towns are going that way,
Mhm.
that we get on board with a company that's secure, which GovOffice is. The WordPress websites can't guarantee that,
No.
so that makes me a little nervous.
Mhm.
WordPress website, what's that
Yeah,
one?
that would be like Meg
Oh,
McCarthy.
what we have.
Yeah, what we have right now.
It's gross.
Yeah. So,
So I'm a little confused. Web hosting per year, yes. So that $1,100 is everything
yes.
for
Yep.
those.
Mm-hmm.
And then at least on the bottom one, you have yes with a number in parentheses after it. That's separate from the per year plan? Is that how that would work?
Yes, yep.
Okay, so that's in addition to.
Right. See, eSolutions and Meg McCarthy, so that's like one-time fees. So eSolutions will redesign our website for $550. And Meg McCarthy's, between $200 and $2,500.
To do that.
Yeah.
But then the maintenance, that's a one-time fee and then there's maintenance. Is that right? Is that how that would work?
Well, maintenance, there's not really maintenance though. We're gonna be doing the updating and,
Mhm.
any changes to the website. It'll happen in this office.
It's more about the security,
Yep.
and it has to be mobile ready. So many people, I mean, it'll make.
And that is the other thing,
Yeah.
good point, Laura, because, having a phone
Mhm.
and trying to see a website,
Mhm.
because it's so small,
Yeah,
and GovOffice does that as well.
yeah, no, if it's not mobile ready, then it's
Not useful to everybody.
to many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have the money in the budget too, if we can do it this year. It's like $2,000 for a website.
So, and does our website need to be rebuilt anyway? And do they help with that?
Yes.
Or
They
that's
will,
your,
they will migrate what we have
yeah,
into a
what
new
they have?
design.
Okay.
Yes.
Our website desperately needs to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Archaic, yeah.
So,
So, and that would be in that 1,100 per year would be to merge that with their
Right.
system and upgrade it, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that would happen on an annual basis.
Yeah, and we can have all the support we want. We just pick up the phone, which is really good.
Valuable.
yeah,
Because right now we're struggling.
no, that's great.
All right, so did I hear you make a motion, Laura?
I move that we use govoff.com for our future website support and creation.
And it looks like that's at a cost of $1,100 per year with a 3-year agreement.
At
Right.
a cost of $1,100 a year with a 3-year agreement.
All right, second. So it's been moved and seconded to contract with govoffice.com for our website support services and update. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
I
Aye.
You know, just wait 1 second, interject.
I'm so glad we made you happy.
Yeah, poor Deb, she struggles with it,
That's
and
nice.
it's awful, oh my God.
Well, to be able to
They're like,
do that stuff
Brian's
online
like,
would
can
be
you do a
great.
banner so that people don't park? I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
can't.
Mhm.
We can't figure out how to do a link.
It's awful.
Okay, so
I've looked at it, I'm pretty good about figuring things out, but, so thank you very much for that.
And the security that these people are providing so that we
Yeah.
don't have to take responsibility
Yeah.
when somebody uses a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's superior.
Yes,
it's really important
definitely.
if you're gonna be accepting
Yeah.
funds, yeah.
Okay, so our next item is people's resolution for a credit card.
Right, so we have a credit card with United Bank with Cynthia's name on it. We can't use it
It's
for
less
anything.
helpful than it used to be.
Yes.
Has she been using it?
Yep. I can take it, but, so this
You
resolution.
didn't say that on camera.
This resolution has my name on there to have a town credit card, so we can utilize it in emergencies, that's it. So,
Where do we
I
get
don't-
our supplies from, and like most of our office supplies and,
Staples or WB Mason.
okay,
We don't go into Bradboro to really shop down there,
okay.
although we do have a Staples card,
Mhm.
so. But,
But Staples also delivers. Yeah. I mean, do you get most stuff delivered from them? Or
yeah,
not?
online, yep.
Right.
We
yeah.
just order online, it's here the next day.
Yeah.
So they're really good. But this is just for an emergency, this card.
So moved.
Yeah, so I'm just out of curiosity, what emergency, what kind of emergency? I give
Well,
an example. I'm just curious.
Karen needs a vacation.
Right, yeah,
Really bad.
I'm just
No,
curious.
No, like Beverly wants to get some chairs for the pool.
Right.
So
Oh.
something like, and she goes to Ocean State,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
you know, she shops around, gets the best deals, or she'll go to Walmart.
Mhm.
You know, so something like that, which of course I would have to go with her, but
Mhm.
That's where the
save
mani
money.
pedis come in.
Yeah, you know, to save money though, it's good to have.
Yeah.
And, you know, in many of those cases, you could probably call and
Yep,
sort of order and say,
Put it up,
order
yeah.
that way, put it on
Yeah.
the card.
otherwise she would have to expense all that
Yeah,
Right.
and then be reimbursed.
Right.
And some people
I
just
understand
can't,
that.
they don't have it.
no, that's,
What's this pain?
I can
Right.
appreciate that.
Okay.
It's just something like that, you know, and if it's ever needed, it's there just in case. Postage is another thing.
Mhm.
How many times do we run around for petty cash trying to get money for stamps?
Okay.
So that card would be used for something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
Yep.
but,
So moved.
thank you.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to apply for a business card or to approve the business card resolution form for the town of Putney with Karen Astley, town manager, as the signator. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
That's what I want. That's what I want for school.
A credit card?
For
Yeah.
school.
Do you want to sign that, Josh? I have to send it back to Dave.
Board clerk.
There you go.
Okay.
Holy smokes, we've got a really large limit.
Yeah. We're
That's a lot of pool
We're
chairs.
pretty dependable, you know. Okay, so our next is contract renewal with Rescue Inc.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Down here.
So 3%, they went up. It's already in the budget.
at this amount,
Yes.
yes,
It's like less than $1.
per
It's
person.
close, it's close, but,
So the assessment as this reads is a population of 2,702 with an assessment of $23.31 per, which makes for a total of $62,983.62 in 12 installments.
Do we have any idea of how often they come into town for us?
Pretty
Just out of
often. I
curiosity.
don't know. Tom would know right offhand, or they would.
I'm not
No, I
questioning
don't.
whether or
Yeah,
not we, I just
yeah,
was
no,
curious.
I don't
At
know.
least several times a week, though.
You think so?
yes.
Yeah, several being very variable one week to another. You know, that's the funny thing
Yeah.
about all of those services. Is, you know, they may not come here for a week and then they may come 12 times in the next week. you know.
Yeah.
But,
And I wonder how often our firefighters get out there to help first.
most of the, I mean, they're almost without exception the first responders
Yeah.
unless they're held up for some reason for any medical emergency. But it's usually our people on site first and then an assessment whether often Tom will turn rescue around if it becomes clear that it's not necessary. But then with rescue following close behind.
I think the town report might have your numbers in
Number
there.
of calls, probably
I'll take a
does.
look.
Yeah.
I know the fire department does.
Has the number of calls. Total number of calls for the fire department last year, it's been averaging, you know, a little over 500. I want to say 530, something like that.
Yeah, it was high, I was there.
But that
It's
includes
busy.
car accidents and
91,
Everything.
yeah, everything. Yeah,
yes.
and that, and
Yeah.
out of town
Fires,
calls, then
yes.
supporting other
Yeah.
town, okay.
Mutual aid.
Yeah.
Every time the tone goes off and trucks leave the station, that's counted as a
Wow.
call. But it's, yeah, it's a big number. But rescue, I'm not sure what the number is. And just for the historical aspect of it, we had a big review of this a few years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, as to whether to stay with Rescue Inc. or whether we could get a less expensive contract through, at that time,
Golden
Golden
Cross.
Cross out of Claremont. They do Westminster, they do Bellows Falls,
Yes.
they do a bunch of the towns north of it. And it was very clear that the people were interested in staying with Rescue, even if there was somewhat of a premium to doing that. So, and that was, I think at that time, we were talking about $38,000.
That sounds about right.
So it's gone up quite a bit since then, but, you know, and I mean, we are and always have been very happy with the service Rescue has provided. You know, we as the select board felt that it was incumbent upon us to at least explore the possibility of going elsewhere. And I know that Westminster has been very happy with Golden
Yeah,
Cross
they have.
in general.
Yes.
So, but, you know, Rescue is really considered to be the regional ambulance, and in fact, it was formed with Putney included as one of the original towns that was supportive of it, so that history is fairly long and meaningful, so.
All right, so I'll move to approve, to renew the contract with Rescue Inc. for the 18-19 fiscal year for $62,983.62.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the renewal of the contract with Rescue Inc. in the amount of $62,983.62. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You want me to sign this, Mary?
Please.
Oh, 23rd.
23rd.
Yeah.
23rd, yeah. 05, 23. All right. So next is the change in adjustment to the agenda, which is the Better Roads
Yes.
Agreement.
So category A, Better Roads Grant. We were awarded, as of May 12, 2017. What has to happen, this is for municipal roads, general permit road erosion inventory. So Wyndham Regional Commission has gotten together some interns to go to certain towns in Wyndham County and do a culvert inventory. So the co-op situation is good timing, because what they do is they categorize, priority, like level A, B, or C, and the ones that need attention right away, they're on the top of the list. So this is gonna be, this contract, so we were awarded the grant. This is the contract for the $10,000. It's an 80-20 match.
Contract with Wyndham Regional.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so apparently we have to do a contract with them.
Yeah.
And they sent the contract. I met with Jack Nugent Brian wasn't able to, he was at that equipment show. And he's on board with this, Brian is, to have Wyndham Regional start the inventory. And Wyndham Regional did ask that we have a highway person for Westminster Road and West Road because of the high traffic. And they didn't want their people out there. We also had the opportunity to have the highway department do the inventory for the entire town. But Brian is down 2 guys and his schedule is not gonna allow that. But it's an 80-20 match, $10,000. We're looking at maybe 2,000. So if we have some in-kind from the highway department,
Probably make up for that.
yes.
Out of curiosity, I mean, when was it, 2 years ago there was an inventory done?
Something like that.
Something like that. So is that just looking at conditions? I was under the impression that the last one, it was just identifying it. It hadn't been done for a while. And they were just identifying all of the, and then didn't state regulations change with sizing and
Yes.
everything?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
That and the new stormwater
Right, exactly.
conditions and the permitting that has to be done.
right,
This is what's triggering that.
okay.
So this is kind of like before we get to the next stage. So they're trying to connect all the hydraulic culverts, so anything that runs together and runs into the streams, those are the ones they're gonna prioritize.
Okay.
So we're gonna be looking at more work down the road.
Mhm.
Brian feels he's in really good shape, but the state also looks at segments of the road. So, and they're all numbered,
Right.
so this inventory is gonna help,
I see.
especially when we add new culverts too.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, and I mean, you're right, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. I wouldn't think that much has changed, but,
Right.
you know, the other advantage of having an outside group do it is
You're not gonna
just
need
another set of eyes and,
Yes.
you know, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. My guess is, and I don't know that this is right, but that they do not actually probably inventory culverts that do not go under town roads. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's how I think of it, is that
Class 2, 3, and 4 town highways.
exactly. So something like the culvert, like the co-op, where the culverts are parallel to the road, I don't think we typically inventory those. Because that would mean all the driveways, every driveway that has a culvert. I don't think,
Right.
but maybe we do.
No, you're right,
I don't
because
know.
they're not doing those.
Right,
Right.
so that would be a different issue, so we should keep
Yep.
that, you know.
And that's why too, the private driveway culvert, if we don't have like a policy, you know, on who assumes responsibility, and if they're not the right size.
Right.
So we have to be really looking at that.
You should ask, I mean, you may already have, but you should talk to Brian, because
Yeah.
I know we have sort of we have kind of a
general?
protocol, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's based on a policy, so
Right.
we probably
It's not in
should.
writing.
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
but it may well be,
Yeah.
I don't know, or may well
I
have been.
haven't come across one, Josh,
Right.
so.
well, wasn't there something in the hazard mitigation plan? Wasn't there something too, talking about the more frequent excessive rain, that there should be some, I know a lot of it was for stream beds and things like that, but I seem to remember someone talking about, oversizing culverts and stuff like that in some
Definitely,
areas,
yeah,
so-
no, I think that's true, and I think that when Brian, the most recent one that I can recall is the one on the left-hand side as you're going up West Hill.
Right.
Where it had a bad washout in that one big storm. And my recollection is that he agreed with the owner of that basically that arrangement, there was some variation on the arrangement that the co-op folks were talking about. They paid for the material and we committed to doing the work, or vice versa. I can't remember exactly how
Yeah.
it worked. But, again, whether that's based on policy or just history, I don't know. So we should probably clarify that.
We should, because down the road, it's probably gonna be more and more.
Right. Yeah, no, and the risk to us is that if culverts that parallel our roads block and don't carry sufficient water, then it puts our roads at risk. So
Right.
I think that's why we have willingness to,
And that's a greater cost to repair.
yeah, exactly. So we'd rather upgrade them as we
Yes.
do them, and also in consideration of new ones, you
Right.
know, going based on state guidelines for
Yeah.
those, so.
I actually had a question about my own culvert. I'll bring it up later, but I was looking at it just yesterday.
All right. So, given that that was added and not, can we take action on it?
Yeah, because it was added under select board items. Discussion action.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether when we add it at the last, we're supposed to have, and any expenditure should be warned in advance, but I don't know whether,
Well, the grant was already awarded
right.
for $10,000.
So, and we had already agreed in the grant application to
Right,
do that.
right, so the money's there, it's just the signature to get the work started.
Okay, so we're not approving the grant, or the monies we're approving,
To get the work.
get the process.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that sounds
Yep,
reasonable too.
and here's the notice right here.
Do we need a motion for that?
And who are we, whose name's gonna be on it? Yours, Karen?
No, yours.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked Wyndham Regional and they said normally it's select board.
Select board. That's fine.
And most
I
towns
understand.
are select board signature.
Okay, well, it looks like I move to have Josh sign for the town the grant agreement for fiscal year 2018 Better Roads Category A grant, and for work to begin with a 80/20, $10,000, right?
Yep.
So
We've been awarded eight,
8,
and it's a $10,000 contract. Okay.
so that's 2,000.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Better Roads grant agreement
Oh, here it is.
and engage the Wyndham Regional Commission to undertake a culvert assessment. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, now you're starting.
Yeah, you want to move over to me?
All right, town manager's report.
It's pretty lengthy, but I'm gonna cut it short.
Good.
So Wyndham and Windsor Housing Update, certificate of occupancy has been issued by Tom Goddard. June 1st, they will start occupying the apartments and it's 80% leased.
Wow,
Great.
that's great news.
Yep.
And I'm assuming, I don't know whether you would have heard of this yet, I haven't, but I'm assuming there will be some sort of a
Ribbon cutting.
grand opening /
Yes.
ribbon cutting, so we
Peter
should
Paggy said we would be invited, so I'll make sure you guys know about it.
just,
Okay.
and we should,
Yeah.
we should let people know.
The state did do the audit with us, Peter Paggy and myself. It was here
Paggy,
last,
isn't it?
Paggy?
I think it's Paggy. but I
P-A-G-G-I?
think he said Paggy. I think he introduces himself as
Paggy?
Paggy, but I might be
Okay.
wrong.
Peter,
Peter,
very
yes.
thorough, I have to add.
Yeah.
I was impressed with his
Yep.
work. So he'll let us know when the ribbon cutting is, but the state did the audit and they had a few things that we both need to get done. And apparently we have to have a public hearing at the end, but
To close the,
yes, it's about the loan.
I can't remember what, this is VCDP money?
Yes,
What, yeah, okay,
federal funding,
yes.
so it's part of their
Yeah.
criteria. So I will keep you updated on that.
Well, Wyndham Windsor should let us
Yes,
just make sure.
yeah, Peter's been really
It's
good,
timely.
he's,
Yeah.
Sidewalk Phase 3 update, had a meeting with Kathy Robinson. We're getting closer.
Good.
And we do have to,
And were you able to, appease isn't the right word, but to explain to Landmark sufficiently sort of what's going on? Didn't you guys have a meeting or not?
no, we had a teleconference and I'm to write a letter to Peter, which is in the works.
Okay,
I told him he'd have it by Friday,
okay.
so, yeah. I mean, I have to look at the timeline and see,
See what's doable.
yeah,
Yeah,
what happened. But I've been on the phone with RSG Corey Mack. He's been
Yeah.
very helpful. I have to review his contract amendment.
yeah.
I don't know where we're at financially. It's very difficult to know phase 1, phase 2, what the
Phase 2,
overall.
phase 3, right.
Yeah, so I have to compare
Mhm.
their contracts. And see.
They should be able to clarify that for you
Mhm.
pretty clearly, I
Yeah.
would think.
So in 2 weeks, I'll have that on the table for you to sign, as long as I'm comfortable with it. Let's see. I guess the only thing I'll add, because I can save the rest, is Friday I'll be out of the office. I'll be leaving at 1. I have a personal appointment with my dad's doctor. But Deb will be here till 4 o'clock,
Good.
so.
With the sidewalk, can we do some kind of, some kind of announcement in some way? Because one thing I've noticed with this sidewalk is the lack of public awareness as to what's happening has led to a lot of frustration amongst the people in Putney. I mean, right now, that's called the sidewalk that goes nowhere.
That's what I call it too.
But you probably don't call it, but you know it's going to go
nowhere.
somewhere.
But I guess we could do that. We have a sidewalk
Maybe on the
committee.
website, on the new website, or?
We have a sidewalk committee, but I know some people are very frustrated because we started planning this, 2012, 2013. Now, I spoke with Mark Pickering with the state, V-Trans, and he said, a project of this magnitude, you're lucky if you get it done
Yeah.
5 to 10 years. He goes, you guys aren't doing that bad with this project.
No, and that's what I
Yeah,
said last time. I mean, it just takes a really long time.
and the holdup is the right-of-way. Right now, trying to secure those right-of-way agreements and the transition that's happened within the last year here.
Yeah,
So-
well, and the transition that's happened in V-Trans as well.
And just the
Shifted it,
Yeah.
and John LaBarge leaving will shift it again. I mean,
And
it's
he's,
just,
he's retiring next week is his last week.
so that'll be somebody else coming up to
Yeah.
speed. And, I mean, in theory, it could all work like a well-oiled machine, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't, so.
Yeah, it's not my frustration.
Yeah,
It's,
no, I mean, it's frustrating,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those
Yes, I
things.
understand the process and
The
that.
plans
Yeah.
are 85% done.
Mhm,
Once we secure these easements,
mhm.
they can finish them, and then the state has their final approval,
Mhm.
and then we can go out to bid.
And the hope was that when we went out to bid for section 2, for phase 2, that we would be able to, in the interest of economy of scale, be able to do 2 and 3 at the same time, or at least put them out to bid at the same time.
But I ran into problems with Baskerville.
It was right, well, but that was just phase 2.
Right.
But phase 3 had right-of-way issues.
Right.
It also had state issues, I think, at that point. So, we got to the point where we were able to go out for phase 2, which I think was only a year behind schedule,
Yeah,
which
that went pretty-
wasn't terrible.
Where phase 1 was longer, correct?
Phase 1 from start to finish was pushing 10 years. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
long time.
There's some unforeseen things that,
I
the
think too.
engineers.
But we would have liked to have, we got the money a while ago and we would have liked to have done it. We just couldn't get it in the time frame that phase 2 and 3 could be done at the same time. And then it sort of, as soon as you break them into 2 separate projects,
Right.
then it, then all the paperwork has to be done separately, so
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sort of shifts the whole equation.
It's not
so.
my critiquing.
Yeah, no, I'm not,
Yeah,
I
I
just,
just
in
feel-
general, it's one of those
Yeah.
things,
So
yeah.
now you can refer anyone that talks about it to watch
To
this.
BCT.
To watch
Yeah,
VCTV. Yeah, and it's surprising how many people do watch it, and
Yeah,
that came out wrong. BCTV is very popular, but it's surprising how many people want to watch us, But a lot of people do watch it, but I think that there's a select people that do, and then there's other people that's just not their medium.
Right.
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 And to reach them in a written way might
Yeah.
be a good thing, though. And also to explain the finances behind it, because there's a lot of confusion out there and speculation as to how we're paying for it.
The vast majority is federal grant money that's
Yes.
a pass-through through the state.
Yeah.
And then we have a 20% match, so,
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, it's a big dollar amount,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
And not everybody comes to town meeting when, so
Yeah.
I think there's people out there that just don't understand
Right.
what's happening here.
yeah,
And they're looking at it saying, what's happening with my tax dollars?
right.
yeah, I mean, but, when you encounter that, you can, one of the arguments that comes up in that context is sort of, well, even if it's only 20% match, it's still a lot of money. It's one of those things where, they're all competitive grants. And if we don't take it, somebody else will take it.
Right.
Is that a good reason to take it? No. But in a situation like this where we really need that sidewalk for a number of different reasons, for us to get it at 20% of cost is
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
remarkable. And the fact that we have done all of them with that 80-20 grant money match, we really have not spent a lot of money on the sidewalks overall
Right.
for
When
what
you
we've
look
got.
at
I mean, it's just incredibly expensive to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, for one, will be very happy to see it done because I worry every time I see somebody walking on the side of Route 5.
And I think that's my sense is that's the sentiment of almost everybody, is that, I think some people feel like, well, wait, why are we doing this for the college sort of thing? And it's like,
Heard that
that's
too.
part of it, but, the reality is, whether they're at the college or not at the college, they are people who are living and, occupying Putney, and
Right.
They're a part
that's
of
our
our
responsibility,
community.
exactly. So,
They may
you know.
be teachers that live here that are
Yeah.
walking down the road to come
Yeah.
into town for lunch. It doesn't matter who it is, they're
No.
a part of our community.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Well, that was a little bit of the argument too, is that economically for the town, it could be helpful.
Yeah.
If all of a
Yes.
sudden, an extra 10, 15 students a day came into town.
yeah.
Yeah.
To go to because it was an easy walk now, and went to the general store.
And it also,
or whatever.
yeah, just generally fits into that, village density connectivity concept too of, hey, the more walkable a village we are, the better for everybody, so.
I agree, and I know as a parent that if I were previewing colleges with my children and I looked at this one right now, I would say, how do you get to town safely?
Yeah.
So that would be a concern for me,
Yeah,
especially in the winter.
yeah. So, and once again, as, we've said before, Landmark has been very generous with us as well. And
Yes.
that's a big part of it, they've been very supportive of this whole section 2 and 3, and it's important for all of us. All right, anything
All right.
else?
No,
Nope.
I'm good.
Okay, warrants.
Do you want to hear them first and then?
Should I, let's see.
I'm on it today, I'm gonna second this, so whenever it happens.
I guess I would just, I'll move to.
Let's just do them and then approve them. What, either,
Yeah.
I don't know that it matters. Yeah, I'm just not sure, if we,
You've been approving
Yeah.
them and then signing off.
right, it's fine.
I
I don't think it matters that much.
Can I have a motion?
So I'll move to approve and execute the warrants as presented.
I second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Then payroll warrant dated May 18th in the amount of $26.22. And this does include the library.
Yeah, I got one too. I'm like,
Gosh.
Yeah, unfortunately.
it's not gonna be.
It's like, I know exactly what it is, because we already raised, it's like $23.81 or something. But hey, it's $23.81.
Yeah, kind of curious.
But it's not 23,000.
I know.
Unfortunate. Oh, sorry, I didn't even, let me just look for a sec.
Yeah, I'm totally curious as to what I could pay from. I got 2 of them.
Wow.
These are unclaimed money. Yeah. Did you get one too?
Not this year, but I have in the past.
All right, next up.
Payroll warrant, May 25. $5,420.32.
And I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the reason Emily Zervas is almost double anybody, or more than double it, that's because it's bi-weekly as opposed to weekly. right?
Library
That's-
is
that's what
bi-weekly.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm that.
Who's out at the garage right now?
Skip.
Oh, that's
I
right.
saw him yesterday. Is he on, he's on vacation or just?
No, he had some surgery.
Oh, did he?
So he's, yeah, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
There's never a good time for one of them to be out, is there?
Mhm.
No.
No, and he's down one man anyway.
Did he lose an employee or?
Well, that's that.
We've been down a person for quite a while, and we've sort of juggled. You know, for a while that was okay, and overall we should have at least another half-time person, but,
Right. But they're managing.
but they're managing.
But with Skip out, he feels the,
That,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, the squeeze.
yeah. So we have accounts payable warrant dated 5/18 through 5/25. $41,155.53. And we have invoices here if there's any question. I think there's another sheet, Steve, if you keep flipping.
Oh, you got that summary, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
right there.
That's right.
It gives you all.
it's funny, we've only had that clock for,
Not very long.
and already it
No, I'm very
keeps
disappointed.
looking over there. What's the deal? It's broken? Just battery?
No, we put 3 batteries in it, it won't hold the time.
Huh.
So I think it's a second hand or something's hanging up somewhere.
Where did it come from?
Staples. I could send it back.
They
and
should
get a
make
new
good
one.
on it,
Yeah, I'm gonna get digital.
yeah. No
We can put
moving
people on a
parts.
timer.
Yeah.
There's nothing unusual in there.
No, is that King's? Is that for the King's Electric?
Yeah, that's-
Finishing of the
Yep.
generators.
Yeah, connecting
Yeah.
at the town garage.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep.
So is that up and running?
We gotta get the. I think it's propane, but I can't remember.
No.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
For a generator?
Yes, so we had to fill out some paperwork for Irving.
I'm just noticing Barrows and Fisher. We haven't,
Fuel.
yeah, we gotta think about that.
Have we
right?
con-
No,
Contracted
I
with
meant like for trucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we should think about our
Oh, yeah, going out to
prepay,
bid.
exactly.
Yep, yep,
Because it's that time of year.
yes,
And
Yep.
I know that it's
Went up.
Some people are waiting it out on the assumption it may come back down a little bit, but
Well, I
we should pay attention to it. you know.
I contacted George at HB Energy and he said, hold off a little bit.
That's,
before you-"
that's what most people are
Yeah.
thinking. Let the,
So- But we
current
should
terminal
probably,
products,
either write letters and then put it out to bid
Mhm.
and see what we get.
yeah,
But we should be thinking about that now,
yes,
like June,
yeah.
early June. I wouldn't wait any longer
Well,
than
and
that.
Twin State Truck Service, what was that, a fire engine? That's a pretty
No.
sizable check.
Is that for part for the truck, the new truck maybe?
I don't know.
Hopefully these are in order. We asked them to be in order. Twin State?
Twin State Truck Service.
Yeah, of course. Stormwater. Twin State. Yeah, that is for fire department.
Is it? Okay.
What is this for?
When was it? What's the date on it?
It is
I wonder that's the,
April. That's not the new truck.
that's good.
Oh, here's one too for Brian.
Oh, there's two of them together.
There's
that's
two of
why.
them. So Brian has one as well for the 2004 Mac. Had some work done to it for $6,346.96.
That wasn't cheap.
New. It's a 2004 though.
Yeah.
It's fairly old.
Well, I know when we retired it.
Almost classic,
I
isn't
don't
it?
know.
Same reason I'm still driving my Forester.
So I guess Tom's invoice was a lot less. So
So it's more.
so that's for
More
Brian's
high.
truck. Yep.
And just out of interest, why are we paying a check to the Vermont Office of Child Support?
Child employee
It's
policy.
child support, it's required by law.
That's what, so it's employee, that's what it
Yes.
is, employee
Yeah.
I
child.
asked, this is
Yeah.
one of my first questions ever here. I was curious too.
So that's,
It's taken,
I was gonna say, whatever it is, it's,
yeah, there's a certain percent
right. It's,
as generated by the state.
yeah. It's garnered wages is what it
Yes,
is. Okay.
yes.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, we're not paying it. It's
Coming out of
their
Coming
check
out,
and then
yes.
we're
Right,
allocating
yes,
it.
Yep.
yeah.
It's not a benefit.
All right.
Is New England Newspapers, is that the Reformer?
It is.
Okay.
That was for the planning commission for their public hearing on that amendment.
Any other business?
No.
Who
No.
uses all the latex gloves?
Fire
That'd be the
department,
fire
probably.
department.
Oh, yeah, that does. That makes sense. That's a lot of gloves.
Yeah, they're all like sitting around standing.
Making water
Blowing them up.
balloons.
Yeah, exactly. Poking a little hole.
Whatever keeps them happy.
And a few gloves. whatever. Okay, we don't need an executive session, or do we?
No.
Okay. And our next meeting date is June 6th, 2018, and a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.